Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flinders University's Year 12 Results What Next webinar. Thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Kirsty Salter, and I'm one of the prospective student advisors here at Flinders. So essentially, it's my job to help people decide on what course is right for them and figure out what pathway they're going to use to get into Flinders University. I'm also a graduate of Flinders, so I studied the psychology honours program at Flinders, which I'll talk about a little bit later on as well. And I do remember what it's like being a Year 12 student and making your way along the journey to university. It can be a little bit daunting, so we're here to provide as much information about the processes coming up over the next few months before you hopefully receive your offer. So I'm going to be covering a few different topics tonight, including how the whole results process works, how you get into university, and the steps from there. If you do have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to pop them in the chat box that's coming up on your screen if you are watching this live. And I'll either address your questions during the webinar or I'll respond to you individually afterwards. So please do stick around if you do have individual questions. So we'll just jump straight into it. The South Australian Year 12 results, and that is for SACE and the IB, they are going to be released in 1 week. So that's Tuesday, the 17th of December at 8:30 a.m. So that's a very exciting day. I'm sure there's a lot of emotions on that day. The most important thing is to get in contact with us, but hopefully the information in this webinar will sort of give you a bit of a heads up about what to expect. So good luck for your results day. Now, university entry is dependent on a few things. So in order to gain entry into university, you initially need to meet the entry requirements for that course. So some courses have specific entry requirements, and I will go into what those courses are in a moment. But you do need to meet these requirements regardless of how good your score is to get into university. You need to have met any prerequisites or additional entry requirements that a course may have. So this includes things like topics that you must have completed in Year 12 to get into certain courses. Assumed knowledge is just something that's good for you to have, but if you haven't completed an assumed knowledge topic, it won't actually prevent you from getting into the course. And then some other courses do have specific additional entry requirements, which I'll go into in a moment. As for the selection rank, this is what we actually select you on. So this refers to what you would know as your ATAR, but it does include any relevant adjustment factors or what used to be known as bonus points. So I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment, but we do have two different types of selection ranks that we use if you are using your ATAR to get into university. But do keep in mind that there are a lot of different pathways you can actually use to get into uni. It's not all just dependent on your ATAR. So competitive entry selection ranks. Essentially, this refers to the ATAR from the last person who gained entry to the course this year. So everyone who applies for a course who has met all of the relevant prerequisites, if they do apply, they are ranked in a long list, and we take the top people from that list depending on how many places we have available. So an ATAR does not reflect difficulty of a course, and that's something that's really important to keep in mind. That's something that I know I used to be really unsure of when I was in Year 12. A higher ATAR does not mean a more difficult program. It just might mean that places are limited and it's a really popular course, and that can be for a number of reasons, like there might be placements that are a component of that program as well. So, for example, the 2019 ATAR for our Bachelor of Education Secondary with a Bachelor of Health Sciences was 70. So if you got an ATAR above 70, we would say that you are competitive for that course based on the 2019 ATAR. It doesn't mean you'll definitely get an offer, but it means you'd be likely to. We do, however, have what we call guaranteed entry as well, and this is typically higher than the standard entry into that course. So if you achieve this ATAR or above with any relevant adjustment factors, we have to make you an offer because we've printed it all in all the brochures and it's listed online. So the example here is for education again, the same course with health sciences. If you achieved an ATAR of 92, then you would receive guaranteed entry, and you'll know that 2 days after the results come out, you should be getting an offer to that course. If you achieved an ATAR of 85, you would be what we call really competitive because you're about 15 points above last year's score, but you don't necessarily get guaranteed entry. Just a side note on this as well, some subjects are scaled. If you do have any questions about this, Flinders or the universities and SATAC are not actually involved in subject scaling, so you will actually need to see SACE for this. A note on the ATARs that are listed for each course as well, if it does say it's new in 2020, this means that it's a brand new course, as it implies, but it means that we won't actually know what the ATAR will be. So pop in the chat box if you will be applying for one of those courses, and I can give you an approximate idea of what we expect. Now, other entry requirements that I just mentioned before, in addition to some subjects having prerequisites, this mostly comes from some of our science and engineering courses, so do keep an eye out on that one if you are applying for some of those programs. But some courses also have additional entry requirements. So some of these might involve an audition, and that's specifically for people who are applying for our creative arts, dance or drama programs. There is also a portfolio requirement for some of our other visual arts programs, and this includes our visual effects and entertainment design course, creative writing, digital media and screen. Keep in mind the portfolio, they're looking for people who have a genuine interest and some ability. They're not looking for the end product. So people going into these courses are there to learn, so they're not looking for people who already have perfect skills. They're looking for people who can demonstrate that they've got a passion and interest in their area. But do keep in mind that with the portfolio and the auditions and things like that, they do have separate deadlines for when you must have submitted that by or applied by. So hopefully you have met them already, as a number of these have already taken place. If you were applying for medicine, hopefully you sat the UCAT this year. If you are interested in applying for the Clinical Sciences Doctor of Medicine Year 12 entry program into medicine, you won't be, if you didn't sit the UCAT this year, you won't be eligible. And the only way you can sit it again next year is if you are not going to be studying at university in 2020. Otherwise, you have to apply for postgraduate medicine, but just come and have a chat to us about that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that in this webinar. If you're applying for an education course, you will need to have completed what's called the Teaching Capabilities Statement. So this is a personal statement submitted by yourself to demonstrate your interest in becoming a teacher and entering that profession. We do have some more information about this on our website, and there is also some information available on SATAC. So hopefully you've done that one already, but if not, definitely look into that and make sure you've submitted that part of your SATAC application as well. We've got on the right here a bit of an example of a current university student's piece of work. I believe that comes from our visual effects and entertainment design program. Now, a few other entry requirements, well, not so much entry requirements, but another option that you may have undertaken this year is called the uni test. So you should be receiving your results by email from ACER, and that's the Australian Council for Education and Research, if you haven't already received those results. In these results, it might look a little bit confusing. You'll see that you've been given a graph, and that graph shows you how you performed in the uni test compared to all the other Year 12 students who sat the uni test this year. So you're given a percentile rank. Remember, you can't be disadvantaged by having completed the uni test. If you performed really poorly, we will just pretend it never happened. If you did well, it can assist you in getting into university. So essentially, it can be a bit hard to tell if it will help you or not until the offer round. So if you get into a course and you're not sure how you got in, you can give us a call and we can have a look at and see if the uni test helped you get into that course. Adjustment factors is something that I have mentioned a few times already. These used to be called bonus points. and it's now under this new fancy name. You can only receive a maximum of 9 bonus points, and there's 2 different schemes that you can use to be considered for these. So we do have the South Australian Universities Equity Scheme. So your school may actually be automatically eligible to receive school-based bonuses, in which case you don't need to do anything. They will all be automatically applied. There is a list of schools available on the SATAC website to check if you are eligible for those 5 points automatically. If you're not sure, you can't find that list, just give us a call, as I said before. You can also apply for individual bonuses under this scheme as well. So there are a number of criteria that you'd have to meet in order to receive these bonus points individually, and that includes things like whether your parents were in receipt of a means-tested income support payment from the government for the whole duration that you were in Year 12. So it's definitely worth having a chat to your parents or caregivers to see if you think you'd be eligible for those. If you are, you can indicate that you would like to apply for equity bonuses in your SATAC application. There will then be a form that you'll have to download, and you'll have to provide evidence to support that application as well. Separately to this, there is also the South Australian Language Literacy and Mathematics Bonus Scheme. You can receive 2 points per subject, depending on what you completed in Year 12, as long as you completed, I believe, a C grade or above in that subject, but there are a maximum of 4 points that can be awarded under this scheme. Hopefully you're not too confused yet. Essentially, if you completed a language other than English, up to 20 credits worth. If you completed English literary studies or English, mathematical methods or specialist mathematics, you can receive 2 or 4 bonus points or adjustment factors on top of your ATAR under that scheme as well. So if you received individual bonuses or school-based bonuses, and you also have completed 2 of those subjects or more, then you would be receiving 9 bonus points. Now, something that's really important for you to remember is that your adjustment factors are not added directly onto your ATAR. So we'll use the example of someone that has received an ATAR of 70. If you receive 5 bonus points, it does not mean that your new ATAR is 75. There's a very complicated algorithm behind this, but you will need to have a look at your SATAC application or call the universities to find out what your new score is. So in some instances, it can actually boost your ATAR by even more than that number of points. So essentially, it's added onto what's called your aggregate score, which is the total of all of your Year 12 subjects and your performance, and it's then converted into the ATAR, which is a rank that shows how you performed against all of the other students in Year 12. So if you receive adjustment factors, it's added to that aggregate and reconverted. So you won't be able to calculate it yourself. Definitely worth having a look at how much that has boosted up your ATAR, as it may just push you over the line into your dream course. For the first time this year, you will actually be able to view your adjusted ATAR in your SATAC application by viewing the preferences summary. And you should see a new score listed next to each preference, as for some courses, such as medicine, certain bonus points don't apply. So have a look against each preference to see what your new adjusted ATAR is. However, what we actually recommend that you do is give us a call. You can see that number coming up on the screen now. So it's 1300 354 633. Press option 1 and that will come through to our team, the prospective students team. We can then have a look at your application and explain what your new ATAR is, how we'll assess you based on that. And we can also have a look at your preferences. So I really recommend doing this. It's something that I did when I finished Year 12, and I had put a lot of pressure on myself. I was really upset when I initially got my ATAR, but after speaking to one of the prospective student advisors, I realised there was a really simple pathway for me to follow to get into my dream degree. So cannot recommend making that call enough. However, if you did better than expected, keep in mind that we really encourage you to keep your preferences in order of passion, not your ATAR. So we've got an image here of Robert coming up on the screen. Robert's story, I think, is quite inspiring. Robert did really well in year 12. I believe his ATAR was 99.5 or thereabouts. And he was being really encouraged by his family to pursue medicine because he got such a high ATAR, but he was always really interested in pursuing business. So Robert actually followed his passion, and despite achieving well above the ATAR score, Robert's actually gone on to do really well. So Robert is currently working in quite a high role at Uber in South Australia at quite a young age. So I think it's just evidence that it really pays off if you do follow what you're passionate about, and just keeping in mind that a higher ATAR course doesn't mean that course is any better than a course that's got a lower ATAR. It always comes down to the number of places available and the number of applicants. And just remember as well, your ATAR doesn't actually run out. It never actually expires. However, once you attempt more than 2 years of full-time university study, if you do choose to apply for a different course, the universities need to then look at what's called your grade point average, because this shows your most recent study attempt. But if you didn't come to university for 10 years or even longer, your ATAR wouldn't technically run out unless you had studied at university for that long. So moving on to talk about some other pathways that you can use to get into university. So there are a number of pathways that are specific to Flinders. And some of these, I guess, have different entry pathways or application processes. So general studies is a really broad program that we have on offer at Flinders Uni, and it allows you to access a number of different study areas. It's something that we generally recommend you list as a 6th preference in your SATAC application, as it's a really good backup. Students who achieve an ATAR between 50 and 60 can be considered for this course. You can start in this course, and then once you've completed at least 4 topics at university, which is 1 semester full-time or 2 semesters part-time, generally speaking, you will be given your grade point average at university, or GPA. You can then use this GPA to transfer across into your dream degree, hopefully, and depending on what you were studying in general studies as your topics, you may have some of those topics credited across to your new degree as well. So that's a really good backup option to include. Another option that we do have, something called dual offers. So a dual offer just involves a single application for a TAFE SA diploma and a Flinders degree. So when you're in the undergraduate portal on SATAC, these courses will also pop up depending on what you search for. You can list this as an additional preference, potentially lower in your application as well. They're a bit less competitive, and it might be that you get an offer to Diploma of Community Services and a Bachelor of Social Work. And then provided that you complete successfully the TAFE SA diploma, we will then make you an offer to Flinders, and we will give you any credit or time off that results from having completed that diploma. So with a diploma, you'll generally get 1 year off from study, but it does differ from program to program. So again, can be a really good backup. You can see there's a link that's coming up on the screen now. It's worth having a look at those to see if any of them are relevant to what your dream degree or your first preference is, so that you can add that in at the bottom. Foundation Studies program, this is another excellent pathway that we've got available at Flinders. So this is actually separate to SATAC. It's a free preparation program for university studies. So it prepares you for many of our undergraduate degrees, or the first degree that you study at uni. It's free, which is a bonus, and there's a number of locations that you can study this one at now. So we have run this program, or we do run this program in conjunction with TAFE SA, and it can be studied either at the Noarlunga campus as well as the city campus in Light Square. And we've recently announced a new opening at the Stretton Centre in Munopara as well. So you complete the first 3 topics at one of those TAFE campuses, and then you come onto the Flinders Bedford Park campus to complete the last topic if you were studying at either Noarlunga or in the city. Great program. It equips you with some fantastic skills that you'll then use throughout your university degree as well. Essentially, the only prerequisites for foundation studies are that you haven't studied at uni before. So It's open to anyone essentially, and it can be a really good start to your university journey. If this is something you're interested in applying for, and you can just submit a separate application to this as a backup to your SATAC application, you can visit flinders.edu.au/foundation and just apply directly through our website there. Now, I sort of touched on this a few times, especially when I was speaking about general studies. At Flinders, we do have something called Flinders Link, or what you might sort of hear as being called internal transfer. So Flinders Link essentially refers to an internal transfer process where we give you guaranteed entry depending on the grade that you achieve. So I understand if you've just finished year 12, you might not have any idea what a GPA is or what it means. At Flinders and at most universities in South Australia, a grade point average is actually measured out of 7. So I thought I had failed the first year of uni when I first got my grades back because I didn't understand what it meant. And it can be very confusing. So you can see on the screen here a few examples of what a GPA might look like, but you might have a GPA of 4.75. It can really sit anywhere, and it's an average of all of the overall topic grades that you achieve in each topic each semester. If you achieve a GPA of 5, you're sitting on what we call a credit average, and achieving a credit in a topic means that you have achieved between 75 and 85% on your assessments and exams. If you've got a 4, you're sitting at a pass average and you're achieving between 65 and 75%. If you've got a 6, you're achieving at between 85% and above or below, sort of mixes of credits and distinctions. So if you have a GPA of 5, you've actually got guaranteed entry into 145 other degrees at university. So this is a really large number of courses, and it means that it really opens up a lot of doors. So if you start a university degree and you think, actually, no, this isn't right for me, or I did this topic with that person who was studying science and that sounded really good, you can go into a completely different study area, or you can use this Flinders Link to sort of use degrees as stepping stones into your preferred course. So I've got a little bit of an example of how this works with my own example. So when I was finishing year 12, I was really stuck between psychology and law. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I ended up getting an ATAR in sort of like the mid 80s, which I was still very happy with, but it wasn't actually high enough for my first preference, which was for the honours program in psychology. It also wasn't high enough for law. So I got an offer to what you can see there as my third preference for behavioural science psychology, which has an ATAR around 70. After one semester, I was given my GPA and I used that internal transfer to go into law and behavioural science. So I was finally able to do law and psychology together in a double degree. And when I got there, I actually figured out that law was not for me. Law is a fantastic program and a lot of students absolutely love it, but you really have to study whatever course is the right match for you. I decided law and me didn't really match, so I applied for the psychology honours program at the end of my first year, and I was successful in getting into that based on my university grades. So if you are shooting for a course that's got a really high ATAR, you can start in a similar program that's got a lower ATAR score. And I found that once you get to university as well, often studying something that you're really passionate about and really interested in, it's a lot easier to get those higher grades because you're self-motivated and you want to study. So if you are aiming for a more competitive degree, keep that in mind and hopefully you have a similar experience to what I did. Here are some more examples of other pathways that you can use to get into your dream degree. So if you don't quite meet the score for psychological science, which sits around 70, you can start in a Bachelor of Arts Psychological Science pathway if you achieve 60 or above. A lot of these pathway courses are actually set up so that you can still study the same topics as students who are in that end degree. So if you're in engineering science, for example, you'll be in a lot of the same topics that someone who was doing an engineering specialisation was in. It also means that when you transfer across, there's quite a high number of topics that will transfer with you so that you don't have to repeat them. So In most instances, it won't add any time to your total degree. If not, it will only add a semester or a year maximum. There is more information about these course pathways available on our website, but I really recommend that you have one of these pathway courses, if it's applicable to your preferred degree, as a backup in your SATAC application. So accepting offers and enrolling. So essentially what happens is SATAC will look at your preferences and they'll look at number one. They'll either make you an offer if you're eligible, and if you're not eligible, they will then look at your second preference. From there, they'll either make you an offer to that course, or they'll have to move to your third preference, and so on and so on. If you receive an offer to your first preference, SATAC will automatically accept this preference for you, as they will assume you want it because it's number one. They won't look at any of your lower preferences. So if you decide that you actually really wanted to study what you had listed as number three, once the second offer round happens on January 20th, you'll be able to change your preferences around again. January 10th, sorry, that's January 10th. You will be able to change your preferences around again, and then in the later offer rounds that we have that run in the following months, you'll be considered for that new top preference. If you receive an offer to one of your preferences from 2 to 6, you actually need to manually respond to that yourself. So you can log into your SATAC application via their website, and you can choose to either just accept that course, you can choose to accept that offer but wish to be considered for higher preferences. So this second option is what we generally recommend you respond with, because it means that you've got a safe space in the course that you've gotten that offer to, but your higher preferences will still be kept alive for the further offer rounds. You can also reject your offer, but we would hope that if you've got it listed as a preference that you're not wanting to reject that one. There is also an option to defer, and instructions will be included in your offer email on how you can do this through the Flinders Student Information System. We will then get in touch with you towards about November the following year, so this time next year, with instructions on how you can take up your offer for 2021. So now that all of that information is out of the way, I know it's a lot of info, so if you're not sure, do get in contact with us and I'll show you our contact details later on. But I thought you might be interested in, I guess, some of the things related to university life. We are actually hosting another webinar on uni life this Thursday, so please tune in for that one if you are interested in hearing a little bit more about that. Clary, who is pictured here, is one of our student ambassadors who works in our office. Clary is currently studying our Bachelor of Health Sciences with a Masters of Occupational Therapy. So this is a bit of an example of what Clary's weekly timetable looks like. So this solid blue section is where Clary is actually studying at uni. You can see it's very different to school, so it's very flexible. Clary would have nominated a lot of these times. He would have been given a few options for when different classes are running and things like that, and he can nominate the times that suit him based on his schedule. These 1 hour blocks here are most likely lectures, which you can also watch online if you like, or you can go back and watch them again later on if you need to recap on anything. This checked out blue zone is where Clary generally does his independent study. So you can see that it's really flexible, it's up to you, but you do have to be self-motivated with your university studies as well. The great thing about uni is that you do have that flexibility so that you can work part-time during the week or on weekends as well. You can see here, because Clary works in our office, he generally works Monday to Friday at those times. And then that frees up some time during the week, but also on the weekends for socialising and playing sport and things like that. So it's really different when you do start at university. I generally recommend not taking on too much in your first semester so that you can sort of gauge how the semester goes and identify what the peak periods are when you'll probably be really busy with assessments and things like that and spending a lot of time outside of class studying. And then that means that when semester 2 comes around, you'll have a better idea of what to expect and you'll know how much extra work you can pick up and other commitments and things you can get involved in. Okay, so some key dates for you over the next couple of months. As I said earlier, the South Australian and Northern Territory Year 12 results will be released on the 17th of December in just 1 week. The day after that, at 11:59 p.m. on the 18th of December, is the change of preference deadline. So if based on your results you wish to include some new pathway courses, or perhaps you receive a much higher ATAR than you expected and you want to pop your dream course back in there, although I do recommend doing this anyway because it won't impact your application if you have your top preference as your dream degree, even if you don't think you will achieve that ATAR. If based on your results you wish to change your courses, as I said, do this pretty quickly by 11:59 the next evening so that can be considered in the first offer round on the 20th of December. This offer round will be making offers to all courses except for medicine. So if you are a medicine applicant, don't be disheartened if you don't receive an offer on that date because nobody will. We then have another offer round, the main January one, on the 10th of January. As you can see on the screen though, there are a number of further offer rounds happening throughout January and February, and even into early March. So if you do pop in that response to say you accept but you wish to be considered for higher preferences, it means that if places become available in some of our competitive courses later on or other programs, you can receive a late offer to that course. So get in contact with us if you're not sure about that. Orientation week then kicks off on the week starting the 24th of February. That's a really exciting week. I really recommend going along to that one. You get to meet other people who are studying your course, and there's a lot of campus tours and services that you get to find out about during this week. There's a lot of social events as well. We have O Fiesta at the end of the week, which is always a really fun evening. And then that all sort of kicks off all the hard work that is to follow. So your university journey all starts on the 2nd of March. Now I've got a bit of a Year 12 checklist. So the first thing is to call us. I think I've said that about 10 times during this presentation. There's our number again. It's 1300 354 633. Pressing option 1 will bring you through to our team. So we can help you check your adjustment factors. We can chat to you about how your uni test results might assist if that applies. And we can also find out the best way to order your preferences. We understand that you've never done this before. It can be a really daunting process, so there are no such thing as a dumb question. Also, make sure you attend a preference information event. You might be wondering what a preference information event is. Essentially, it's just a time when we've got all of our team and we've got student ambassadors out waiting to speak to you. You can drop in at any time. We have these at a couple of locations to sort of maximise your opportunities to come and speak to us. So this is all happening next Wednesday, the 18th of December. So that is the day after you've got your results and is the same day as the change of preference deadline. You can come in and speak to us. You can change your preferences. We'll have computers there and things for you as well. So we'll be at the State Library on North Terrace from 1 p.m. till 6 p.m. next Wednesday, the 18th of December, and on that same date, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m, we will be available on campus at Bedford Park. So we have further information available about this on our website. If you just go to the main page and scroll down to the events section, you should find on the 18th of December those events listed. You can register to get confirmation details and parking information and things like that for our on-campus event. But it can be really worth coming and chatting to us. Hopefully there was a student that's there studying your course as well. The on-campus event will also have a few academics from various courses present to chat to you too. So that's a really fantastic opportunity to learn more about your course. Other than that, if you'd like to find out more, please give us a call. You can also email us at askflinders@flinders.edu.au if you've got an inquiry. And we have a number of other webinars coming up too. So hopefully tonight has answered some of your questions, but if you'd like to hear a little bit more about university life, that will be running this Thursday at 1 p.m. We also have a scholarships webinar coming up, and we have a number of other webinars from various study areas and about various aspects of your journey to university. So you can find out more on our website, flinders.edu.au/webinars. And we're also on a variety of social media platforms. So there's a YouTube account. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. You can also contact us on Facebook by messaging us with any of your questions over the next few months. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. All the best for your Year 12 results in a week's time, and hopefully we'll see you on campus next year.